your computer also, please. So this is week 5 Active Directory, CIN 2003. Previous lecture, we talked about parent domain and child domain. If you look here, and we talked about forest. Here we have uol.com. This is the root domain of the forest. Okay. uk.uol.com is a child domain of UOL, correct? This altogether is a forest because they have trust. You see, two-way transitive trust. They trust each other. We talked about this, we'll do it. Active Directory is a hierarchical database. It stores network resources, objects, okay? And all this information is called schema. Some people call it schema, but I think schema is okay. Schema, okay? The database of the Active Directory is called schema. And for any network, you have only one schema in the Active Directory structure. Where is the schema stored? It is stored in all domain controllers in the Active Directory. We are going to do this in the lab so you will have better understanding of Active Directory, okay? So when you create your server, install your server, you create the domain. For example, here they gave a domain name duwati.local. So duwati.local will be the root server or the root of the forest, okay? And it will be your first domain controller because it's the only one, okay? And we are going to add Active Directory to it as a role. It's very simple. We'll show you in the lab. There are 3 steps to do that, okay? And now here, they are telling you about that Active Directory automatically assigns 5 master operations roles. The first tool, who was schema master or domain naming master, these are forest-wide operation master roles. So these have the roles for the forest. The remaining 3 are relative identifier RID, primary domain controller PDC, emulator, and infrastructure master. These are domain-wide operation master roles and small. Okay. The DC, which has the schema master, is responsible for performing updates to the Active Directory schema and has the read, write, copy, and it can read, can add to it. The DC assigned as domain naming master manages the Active Directory domain namespace and ensures that every domain is unique in the forest. The RID master, RID اللي هو yes, relative identifier, okay, takes care of assigning security identifier SID, and I will tell you what is SID later. Username and password for each one is called SID. To the domain controller, the PDC emulator deals with password updates, and infrastructure master keeps track of the changes made in other domain objects. Any questions? So 5 are automatically assigned by the Active Directory, which are listed just now. We mentioned them. 5 master operation roles. Okay. Here we have understanding operations master roles, summary of single operation master domain controllers. The occurrence is domain controller. One per forest, you will have one schema master. Remember we mentioned that. And you will have domain naming master. And per domain, you will have infrastructure master, RID master, and PDC emulator master. This is summary of this slide. So here we have our forest, Duwati. Okay. And we have these two domains inside it. So here Duwati.local is actually the master schema, and it is the domain naming master for the whole forest. What is the name of this forest? Duwati. Okay. Duwati.local and ITT training.local are both three domains in the forest. Okay. And they will have their own RID, PDC, and infrastructure masters. Clear? This is just an example. So the master schema, there is only one in the forest. And it is stored in Duwati. What is the difference between domain and work group? Work group is when you have computers linked together without any server. Okay, simple network. With work group, each computer, they are the same privileges. No one controls the other. No one controls authentication. Everyone responsible for his own laptop or computer. With the domain, you have dedicated server, so you have more control, more security. Okay. Example of domain is client server network. Example of work group is peer-to-peer network. One more thing also, domain is scalable. Work group is not scalable. If you have more than 10 users, 15 users, then it will not work properly. Okay. Who can read the first line? Is it clear on your computer? On your PowerPoint, is it clear? Is a trust relationship here on your laptop? What? Yes. Of course, in the Active Directory, when you install Active Directory, your Active Directory domain controller will be having authority on the computer. So the client, the computer, should trust the domain controller. Okay. Once a computer joins a domain, the security account manager, SAM, in the local computer trusts the Active Directory authentication mechanism, which is a Kerberos and a DC. Hence, the user is being authenticated by DC in a network and not from the local SAM. يعني أنت if you are not connected to a domain, when you log into your computer, في username and password. This is not domain username. This is only for your local computer. But if you join the domain, you have to use the authentication that is assigned on the domain, that is recognized by the domain. Okay? Not from the SAM. SAM is only on the local computer. And also, it is okay. The authentication mechanism of each three domain is trusting every other authentication. يعني here, look here. يعني I logged in to Duwati. Do I need to log in to ITT training.local? No, they are trusting each other. One login. All right? You log in one time. Now there are two types of functional levels, of course. We have the forest functional level and we have the domain functional level, FFL and DFL. The forest or the FFL controls which version of Windows Server can run in the domain controllers of the forest, and also it enables the available capabilities across all domains in a forest. So it manages all the domains. The DFL controls which versions of Windows Server can run in that particular DCs of the domain. You see the difference? So DC is limited than FFL. Forest manages all the domains in the forest. Okay. In Windows Server 2019, the DFL and FFL should be raised at least Windows Server 2008 because Windows Server 2003 is no longer supported. If you have legacy servers, 2003 is not supported, of course. Here. Now this is for the lab. Okay, we can check the domain and forest functional levels by going to this screen. Okay, you go to the Active Directory and Trust Windows, right-click the root domain, and then select Properties. Then it will show you here this screen. Okay. You see here down, can you see it? I think it's not clear. Here. You see this one, Forest Functional Level. The domain functional level is Windows Server 2016 and FFL is 2016. Okay? Any questions? Here we have a forest and a root domain at the same time. What is the name of this forest? Duwati. What are the other domains? Or three domains? Duwati.local and ITT. So you understand the whole concept now. Very good. You can see here also that this one is actually child domain of Duwati.local. How do we know they are sharing the same name? Huh? .duwati.local. Sharing the same namespace. Yani like father, like parent. So this is child domain of this one. Is this a child domain of this? No. But they are still in the same forest, no problem. Now we have something very important concept called sites. Unfortunately, we don't do this in the lab, but we need to understand the concept. Okay. Here you have, remember we talked that we have logical and physical topologies for your network. In your CIS 1103 class, I think you studied this, physical topology, logical topology. Okay. Here you have like, imagine you are a big enterprise or a bank, big bank, and you have a branch, remote branch. Okay. The branch is a physical site, right? Physical topology. All right. And at that site, you will have computers, you will have servers. Okay. Your domain will be also working on that site. Some powers. Not everything should be done going back to the headquarters. Some functions should be done there to speed up the process. Of course. We call this site. Now we talk about replication. Same when we talked in DNS, also in Active Directory, we do replication. What is replication? Why we do replication? It is a process to synchronize the common directory partition among all domain controllers in the forest. So they are all synchronized, not somebody have different updates. Okay. Also, replication topology is a set of communication paths through which the domain controller's replication data travels. Okay? So what is the objective of replication of Active Directory? To synchronize the common directory partition among all DCs. Remember, I mentioned to you objects, class, we have attributes, okay? Class is the object type, okay? The attribute represents the characteristics of the object, okay? The Active Directory stores the objects that are identified by either classes and attributes, by their classes and attributes. Then the schema represents the model that contains the roles of the types of objects that can be stored in all the objects are stored on the schema. And it is like the database of the Active Directory. Then it is replicated to other domain controllers. What is object? Object is like if you create a username. This is object. The username has attributes, معلومات خاصة فيه. الاسم, telephone. These are attributes. Okay. Object, username. Okay, now we talked about that when you log into a system, you can use the username and password. Okay? But Microsoft came up with a better way so that you not need to each, like if you log into the domain, then you go to the website, you need to log in again, put password again. Microsoft, they use something called Microsoft Passport. It enables users to authenticate without a password. Okay? It's using technology called FIDO. FIDO. F-I-D-O, يعني Fast ID Online Standard. It has two components, a single sign-in service and a wallet service. From that, we can deduce that Microsoft Passport is a two-factor authentication. Why two-factor? Always you need for security two factors. يعني مثلا انت تروح you go to your car. Like let's say you have a safe. It has a key and also code. This is two factors, correct? For protection. Same thing. FIDO, they have two factors. Okay? Good? So you need to know that Microsoft, they came up with a Microsoft Passport based on FIDO technology. To install Active Directory, we are going to do this in the lab. Active Directory is actually a role. So we go to the server manager, add role, and then choose Active Directory. Inshallah, we will be starting doing the labs. First, we will install Windows Server, then DHCP, then DNS, then Active Directory. Okay, so this is related to the explanation. After you install Active Directory, the next step is, after you add the role, the next step is, please don't forget this. Some people in the exam, they forget to do that. You need to promote, and we will do it in the lab. So the first thing, you add the role. Second is you promote your server. Then a wizard will start. Then you accept the defaults and next, okay? It will ask you for DSRM password. DSRM stands for Directory Services Restore Mode. Okay, if you have an existing DNS on your network, manually create a delegation for that DNS server, okay, to enable reliable name resolution from outside of your domain. Any questions? And then we'll go all next. We will do this in the lab so you will understand more. After that, it will ask you to restart. You will restart the server, the virtual machine. Okay. Any questions? This is the summary. Please read the summary. So what is Active Directory? It is a role that you can add to your Windows server.